Okay, so real quick recap of saturated and unsaturated fats. Remember, our saturated fats are saturated because they have all single bonds in these hydrocarbon chains. And that means they have the maximum amount of hydrogen. So saturated means full. In organic chemistry, we're talking about saturated as full of hydrogen, the most hydrogen you can have. Unsaturated fats have double bonds in these hydrocarbon chains, and that removes some of those hydrogens. So it's not saturated anymore. It's not full. It has a couple of spaces where you could add hydrogen at some point, okay? So those double bonds take away hydrogen, makes it unsaturated, and it gives those chains kinks. And the kinky fats here, unsaturated, are more healthy for us because they can't pack closely. These ones are solid at room temperature, and they're really good at packing into our arteries, for example. Unsaturated fats are liquids at room temperature, and they don't pack closely, and so they don't clog our arteries, okay? Now, trans fats. When people started figuring out this difference right here, people would start looking for objects that had a lot of more unsaturated fats and less saturated fats. They were like, oh, these are healthy. This is what we want, okay? Well, food chemists are really smart, and they decided to make a trans fat that was an unsaturated fat, blue stars, but it is unhealthy and acts like a saturated fat, okay? So let's just draw the picture first, and then we'll talk about it kind of the same way we did with the saturated fats. So we still have our glycerol head, and they're going to act like our saturated fats. So go ahead and draw the three tails like this, and then give yourself some double bonds in those nice, neat zigzags. Okay, so this is what a trans fat would look like, for example. Okay, first of all, I want to say these are not common in nature. Whoops. These are not common in nature. Very, very rare in nature. Okay, they are unsaturated. Remember the meaning of that word. Okay, whoops. I cannot write and talk today. Okay, unsaturated means has double bonds. It's not full of hydrogen. So these have double bonds, okay? They're unsaturated. But what kind of double bonds? If we look back up here, your zig and your zag are pointing in the same direction on each of these double bonds, zig and zag, right? So they're making that nice boat shape, and I talked about that in the previous video. This is a cis double bond, and that's more natural for fats, okay? Down here, my zig and my zag are pointing in opposite directions, pointing up, pointing down from my double bond here, okay? It keeps the zigzag shape. This is a trans double bond. Trans means opposite. So this is a trans fat because the food chemists made those double bonds trans double bonds instead of cis double bonds. So it is unsaturated. So on a food label, people would see this and they'd be like, yay, this product has unsaturated fats, okay? But it behaves just like a saturated fat. Just like a saturated fat, okay? So it is not healthy. And in fact, because we took away some of those hydrogens, they can pack even closer together, which means it's even less healthy. So this is the worst type of fat for us, okay? It's the most unhealthy kind of fat that we could have. And as soon as people started discovering that, you know, they were like, oh, no more Blue Star for you because this is super unhealthy. And most things now don't even have trans fats, because why make them if people have discovered it? Because the FDA now requires trans fats to be labeled on food labels. So trans fats, super bad, but I just wanted to give that to you in case you had heard of those and wondered about what those were compared to saturated and unsaturated. Remember, they are unsaturated because they have double bonds, but they behave like saturated because they have that beautiful zigzag shape and they can pack super closely together.